Happy Friday. See a lot of people joining. Thank you for taking some time out of your Friday to join us here. Candy, are you there?
I'm here.
Awesome. Cool. Well, how are you doing today, Candy?
I am fabulous. How are you doing?
Doing great. Excited for it being Friday. A lot of cool stuff ahead. Seeing some awesome showcase contest submissions coming in still, so that's been exciting. And yeah, just overall excited for the weekend. No weekends here in Dapperville, but maybe we'll be able to sneak out and get some sunshine for a little bit. But without further ado, I'm ready to just dive into some questions. Candy, are you ready?
I'm ready, and I've just posted in the office hours stream chat our agenda for today. I've collected the questions from not only what people asked on Tuesday, but also the things since then, broke them down into categories. So we'll be covering community and communication first, then questions about moments, and then packs, and then marketplace features, followed by challenges, account features, and then third-party tools and bots. So we'll keep that in mind as we move along. That I think will keep our thoughts organized. So with the community and communication, I think one of the first questions that people have been wondering as we've been moving along this week is, now that Usman is gone, what is next for the community team?
Yeah. So we'll be backfilling the role. Great candidates that will be joining us in the very near future. Not quite ready to announce it yet, but should happen as soon as early next week. And they're going to be friends of the community that you all know very well. So we're excited to bring them on board. But yeah, for sure. I think scaling up our community team is a top priority. We just put up a job listing for a VP of community. So that should happen, hopefully in the not too distant future. We'll be adding someone very experienced to kind of help oversee this all. And I think like right now we're on a pretty, between Candy and Mo and Daniel, it's a pretty small, lean team. So I anticipate we're gonna very quickly scale up significantly. The community deserves it, and we now are going to be able to make it happen. So I think the short term will be adding 3 people to the team next week, and that's going to double our community team size, which will pay dividends immediately. And then I think longer term, you can safely anticipate that this could be a 20-person team. So I'm very excited for all that's to come here. And we dearly miss Usman, of course, but still texting with him daily, and I see him replying to DMs and tweets. So I know that he still has NBA Top Shot through and through in his heart. But I'm trying to encourage him to get away from it all and take an exhale and chill on the beach.
Each would be good. And since you mentioned upscaling the team and bringing on more individuals to help with that, do we have any updates about when Top Shot will start marketing and increase the demand for people on the team?
Yeah, I think you might start seeing kind of light promo happening in the not too distant future. I don't think we're going to be growth marketing, but maybe some product marketing, right? Like getting more people to understand what the showcase contest is and what's going on there. Um, so whether that's a stream with the player building out their own showcase contest, or whether that is um, an email, showing off some of the best showcases, remains to be seen. Marketing could come in a lot of different forms and fashions. As far as big budget to bring new collectors to the yard, I think we're not there yet. We still have a lot of priorities we want to get to before that, such as making sure we have more packs readily available, making sure that we're not sending collectors to a somewhat unclear experience. So I think we're getting closer, and of course, we're making great strides on the withdrawal front and on the kind of support reply time front. But I think we're probably going to be looking at what's a good timeline. I don't have a timeline, but we're not there yet, and I think we'll know. We're inching closer to bringing it back, but I don't think we're going to see anything for the next month, I would say, and then maybe come playoff time, you might see some lighter stuff. But again, we're very focused on making sure the product is in good shape. So when we have a big influx of new collectors, those collectors are going to have a very clear call to action and understand the Top Shot experience foundationally, right? Like we always had the goal of making packs readily available. And I think we're going to be getting closer to some systems in place that allow collectors to be able to buy packs in a way that doesn't incentivize multi-account creation or bots. We have some clever strategies there that you might see rolled out within the next few weeks even. So stay tuned on all of that. But yeah, very excited about all that we're cooking up behind the scenes.
All right. So with the update on marketing, you also mentioned showcase contests, and that's something that the community had asked about, with a little bit of concern, noting that the contest feels a little bit more like giveaway bribes, where there's the subjective part about creating showcases that are thematic, but maybe not as inspired. So can you shed a little bit of light on Dapper's overall purpose for doing the showcase contests and how we could maybe elevate that collector experience during these incentives?
Sure. So I think to the first point, around all showcase contests, we want to create a way for collectors to find utility and gamification on the platform that doesn't necessarily have the price tag of uh, a challenge, right? Challenges do tend to get expensive. This has some elements of a challenge where you have to kind of pursue specific moments, but there are so many of those specific moments to choose from that the prices of those moments hasn't kind of created this scary artificial bubble. I think when you look back at what happened with Top Shot in December around the first showcase contest, uh, it inspired a ton of activity and a lot of buzz and excitement. So I think that's kind of where the intent is here. We want to spark excitement, utility, and gamification, creating loops where collectors do X, Y, and Z and get rewarded if they do those things successfully. So that's kind of where we're at with the showcase contest.
All right. And in a similar vein to showcase contests, we have challenges. And I don't want to get into that section as a whole yet, but we had some concern about if there's any protection against insider information or leaks when it comes to, both challenges and showcase contests and what's going to be needed in order to fulfill those.
Yeah, I mean, we keep challenge requirements tight-lipped and top secret. So I don't know where those concerns are coming from. Um, Now, I would say to the other layer of the question, and I guess Candy, if maybe because that was kind of a two-parter, can you restate the question for me just so I make sure I'm answering it directly?
Yeah, so what protections does Dapper have enabled to avoid insider information or leaks regarding, moments that have use, such as in challenges or in showcase contests?
Right. So we have a play policy that's strictly enforced. No employee of Dapper Labs has been able to collect, trade, sell, or any of that since early January, right? With the obvious exceptions of we have test accounts to make sure features are working. Those are not used nefariously. Moments that go out in test accounts go back to kind of the community account for future use and giveaways or wherever. Beyond that, like we're all super tight-lipped. We never share anything around the challenge requirements. We know that the integrity of the product is dependent on us keeping high levels of secrecy. So we actually have a channel in our company's communication channels that ensures it's only like 8 or 9 people in that group. So only everyone who needs to know about challenge requirements ever does get challenge requirements. So there's there's no evidence nor record of challenge requirements being leaked, and I don't think that's something that the community should worry about because we know how important that is to keep tight-lipped.
All right. And so in other things that are important to communicate and not keep to ourselves, do we have any plan or timeline for releasing a schedule of drops? So, obviously with Series 1 and Series 2, as we're scaling to meet demand, it's been a little bit hard, but it would be nice if the community could plan for drops. So even, a schedule expectation for Series 3, could there be 5 base, 4 rare, 2 legendary, moments or even drops? Do we have any plan for providing a timeline?
Yeah, I think for right now we're still kind of going through Series 2. What you can safely anticipate, and I've said this before, will continue to say, is there will for sure be a hollow icon drop. There will for sure be more premium pack drops. There might be an all rookie legendary drop. There likely will be a playoff related legendary drop. There might be a rare playoff drop at some point, and there will likely be common playoff drops as well. So those are the only things that we have etched in stone. And when I say might, I'm speaking with, I'm trying to layer it because I know that the info is important and I want to be careful about not setting up unrealistic expectations. All of those things I just talked about are 100% on our radar. Between the legendary all rookie drop and the rare playoff drop, those I think are closer to 50-50 propositions. I think a legendary playoff drop is highly, highly likely. I think what was the other one? A common playoff drop is highly, highly likely. And then beyond that, like you'll see more common limited edition drops that are not cool cats nor base set, right? So we have a set we're working on that will be released sometime, I would anticipate, in early May. That will be kind of the successor in the lineage of limited edition common drops to cool cats. But very excited to be leaving cool cats drops in the dust, and of course we still have the master challenge to get through. But we will get through that as soon as we are able to.
Perfect. And so the last question for this category. Yesterday we had the pack drop that happened, and there were some challenges that were closing and some challenges that were opening, and everything kind of happened all at once. And that caused a lot of frustration for some users. Is there a way that we can, or do we have plans to spread those events out a little bit more instead of having a week of, say, stagnation and then everything happening in one day?
Yeah. I think we're always aiming to have balance, right? Like our pie in the sky is Monday drop, a Thursday drop, different levels of scarcity around those. But of course, we're in beta, so product limitations lead to necessary kind of iterations on the fly when it comes to the release schedule and the event schedule. But yeah, I think with like the legendary drop from, was it last week or the week before, we wanted to kind of layer that with another kind of event happening in the community that was more accessible to a beginner, such as the showcase contest. So we're mindful of it, but it's also the reality of right now. We work with what the product is giving us, and by no means is it a finished product. So your flexibility as a community is appreciated, as we have to be flexible to make sure that the product is successful. Getting tested properly, moving us one step closer each day to leaving beta, though obviously no quick turnaround timeline there.
Thank you, Jacob. So moving on to questions about moments. And the community has asked how plays for new moments are selected by the Dapper team. And is there a possibility that we could include a community vote for new plays to be minted?
Yeah, so we use hashtag NBA Top Shot this on Twitter. We get crowdsourced submissions there. We're also working on a community project where we're gonna be bringing on some of our most diehard fans to help us source some great moments. Um, and we have in the past done community votes on Twitter around which moments we should turn into Top Shot moments. But our team is growing there quickly, and I think we've made really nice strides. There are no more kind of mid-range pull-up shots that are making debuts as moments on Top Shot. So I would say all of that's fair. I would say, to answer the question most directly, Twitter using the hashtag NBA Top Shot this is the best place for you to uh, have your voice heard as far as submitting a moment you think would be a great one.
And for other moments that, people have been asking about frequently, the Series 1 moments that are still being held, there's a lot of uncertainty because right now there's a lot of scarcity associated with those because they're not in circulation. Do we have updates from Dapper on the plan to release those and what that looks like?
Yeah, we've touched on this. I would still anticipate something for end of this month, early May. We have the plan finalized. We're just kind of polishing up the communications around it, but we're excited about it for sure.
All right, so we will be getting communication out for that sometime in the near-ish future. Is the TLDR. And also with moments, similar to physical cards that have a, different rarities based on their condition, so mint, nearly mint, etc. Is there any way that Dapper may be implementing a feature like that into Top Shot, or would we consider doing that? That could be something with like how many times has the moment been sold or traded or.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. It's something that I think we'll look at in earnest. I don't have a timeline for it, nor do I think it's something that we'll definitively do. But I do think we want to continue to encourage collectors to hold on to moments, and quick flipping in the marketplace, is good for a lot. And a lot of collectors have that mindset, and other collectors have kind of a what's the right word? Like a purity test around moments, and they only want moments that they got from packs, or they want to be the first person to have bought the moment off of the marketplace. So I think it's something we'll consider if it incentivizes collecting and disincentivizes rent seeking. I think it's something that is in our best interest for sure.
And the last question about moments specifically is people have reported, a little bit of frustration with the fact that moments have no real utility right now beside collecting, buying, selling. Hardcourt is something that we have talked about releasing a game that will utilize the moments. In addition to Hardcourt, and if you have any updates, we'd love those too. But in addition to Hardcourt, are there any other considerations out there about giving moments more purpose?
Yeah, I think regarding Hardcourt, we're in very, very initial private testing, testing it primarily with non-Top Shot collectors because they're going to give us objective feedback about the game, and they're not going to have a vested interest in liking the game to add utility to their moments. But I also think we're probably looking at, down the road when we're well out of beta, the ability to go to arenas and be able to do things with your collection there that determine whether you're a VIP fan or whether you are deserving of a free concession, or whether you can go to a kiosk and redeem an exclusive moment from that arena, sort of like a Pokemon Go style approach. I think all of those things are on the table long term. And then, of course, like right now, we're seeing the word got out that challenges were profitable. So then everyone started doing challenges, and now challenges are not profitable because the supply of challenge rewards is so high. And I think that there's always going to be an equilibrium there where it teeters between being unprofitable, so people lose interest, and then becoming profitable again because people see that less people are completing them. That's dynamic, and that's totally up to the community and each collector to go kind of determine their own approach to challenges. But that's another form of utility that I think gets maybe underrated just in the scheme of like them being not profitable right now. People think that they're a waste of time, and to that I would say if you put a dollar sign next to everything you're doing on Top Shot, you're not necessarily looking at it with let me backtrack. I don't think everything you do on Top Shot needs to a monetary value associated with it to have enjoyment or fulfillment from it. So that's how I would kind of approach challenges. Don't necessarily go into it with the expectation or the assumption or necessarily the hope that you're going to make a profit off of the challenge reward. But collect it because that challenge reward is meaningful to you, whether you're a Wizards fan or a Westbrook fan and you want the game winner, or a Luka fan and you want just another awesome Luka moment that you know is going to be scarce.
So a natural segue from moments then is actually looking at the pack category because, we have lots of moments in packs. And the first question here is in regard to, doing these drops and rare moments in general, does the Dapper team regret the decision to increase the mint sizes for the tiers of rarity? Because it doesn't necessarily feel rare anymore with higher mint counts.
No, I think not only do we not regret it, but I think you can safely anticipate as the collector base grows over time that those edition sizes will grow again. So what might not seem rare at 2021 today might seem extremely rare in a few years. Just like how last year, edition size that had 1,500 seemed common and now seems highly scarce. As the community continues to grow, we're not going to proportionally raise the edition sizes to meet demand the same as always. It's going to be harder to get. we're not going to artificially raise or proportionally raise the supply to meet the demand. We're going to make sure that scarcity is still of kind of an utmost priority. But if you think about the scheme of how many NBA fans are around the world, and the fact that we really haven't done any marketing, like I think it's safe to anticipate that we're going to bring in a lot more NBA fans, and they're going to be really excited about collecting a moment that there are only 2,000 in the world of, so to speak.
Right, so we have rarity. And another thing that feels very rare are pack drops in general. So recently we've seen a lot of, the legendary and the rare packs that have dropped and had rebound packs associated. Are the rebound packs now the new norm for common pack drops, or are we going to see standard common pack drops as well?
Yeah, I think common pack releases are going to happen a lot. When it's a base set pack, we're very much reframing the understanding. So those are not drops, those are releases. And the difference there is when we do a release, there won't be the 8-hour notice via email that we're doing a release. There won't be just a marketing campaign around it, so to speak. With a drop, we'll give you that 8-hour notice. We'll make sure that you have a heads up. We'll remind you the day of the drop that it's happening. With a release, that might happen. It could honestly happen today. Who knows, right? And releases are treated closer to being a stress test than a drop in that context.
All right. And with the recent drops that we've had for the legendary and then the premium packs, we saw some different requirements in order to be eligible for those drops. So 2 questions here. One, for yesterday, is there a reason that the legendary moments were not part of the eligibility status for the drop?
Yeah, and I think the answer might be unsatisfying to some or dissatisfying to some. The reality is, right now we are building things on the fly, and what we had built was kind of a 3-layer criteria plus the and or around marketplace spend. And we wanted to gesturally show long term that we're going to reward collectors of a specific set with kind of a priority access to drops corresponding to that set. So in yesterday's context, premium pack, obviously each pack contains a metallic gold moment. If you collect metallic gold moments, we want to give you a priority there. Now, what I'll say long term is we absolutely agree that we need to start building out or prioritizing collectors of legendary moments. I think next time we do something like this, legendary moments are going to be kind of a priority. So collectors of legendary moments aren't kind of edge cased out of situations like yesterday's drop. And then when we're looking at marketplace spend, I think we want to reward collectors and non-rent seekers, and the $99 minimum was a good effort to do that. And I think long term we're not dogmatic about that. Maybe it will become or X number of dollars spent. But yeah, I think like long story short is we were working within the constraints of what we had. So we basically came down to, of the 4 options between one metallic gold or a rare requirement or a common requirement or a legendary requirement, we really wanted to get the metallic gold requirement involved in the drop to just really show kind of rewarding collectors of specific sets again. And then common and rare moments are more accessible, of course, than legendary moments. So we wanted to give priority there. But I understand to those who only collect legendaries or collect legendaries and didn't meet the requirements otherwise, how frustrating that might be. So that's something we'll keep in mind for next time we do something like this.
All right. And so then that partially answers the second question, but maybe a little bit more clarification. Will the requirements for eligibility keep being revised or even become more stringent as we go forward with the premium and the legendary packs?
Yeah, I think you can safely expect us to tinker around the edges and continue to get to a collector base that is maybe our, I don't know, if we have 300,000 active collectors, there were about 70,000 eligible collectors yesterday. So, the top 25, 33% of collectors being eligible for the higher tier pack drop seems right. When it comes to common and kind of base set releases, those are going to have a wider opportunity for collectors to get involved, right? Lesser restrictions. And again, we're going to come up with new features and new ways to get people eligible for packs. But again, those are going to be lower tier packs. And if you as a collector feel entitled or want to get to a rare or legendary pack, the blueprint is very public, right? Like we've had the same 15 moment requirement, not saying that next time you should anticipate it will be 15, because we also are noticing that people are just spending to get to 15 moments and then stopping. And we don't want to encourage a predictable behavior where you as a collector are doing the bare minimum to become eligible and never have to worry about it again. Because that's not the true kind of essence of what we're trying to encourage for collectors. But yeah, I think to that question, like rare and legendary drops will continue to have kind of strict requirements, and common drops are going to continue to have more lenient requirements. And we're excited about seeing collectors start to kind of get involved through base set or common releases, and then getting more familiar with the platform, and then starting to kind of level up. Again, I've compared it in the past to a video game. I'll do it again right now. In a lot of video games, you can't get to the final stages or the boss levels until you complete the more tedious elementary levels. And I think that maybe calling it tedious is unfair, because I think collecting common packs is a lot of fun in its own right. But I think we want to reward the collectors that are going through the lengths of collecting to get kind of the access to the best packs. And again, like even yesterday, we're talking about a situation where we gave rebound packs to every eligible collector. If we opened the queue to everyone, we would not be able to make enough rebound packs to go around. So that's not in our best interest. And at the end of the day, we're still talking about, we had less than 20,000 rare packs yesterday and 70,000 people were eligible, which means at the end of the day, less than like 2/3 or more are going to be leaving empty handed from a rare. So that's kind of where we're at.
And in other considerations for pack drop requirements, would we consider requiring challenges or challenge completions, challenge rewards, to be a requirement for future pack drops?
Potentially, I wouldn't rule out anything. I think it could be a criteria. I also don't know if that's our priority criteria for next time. I think we're pretty happy with the kind of formula we've created. That's not to say we shouldn't tinker a little bit.
All right, so that covers a lot of the requirements, but we also have some concern about, even though we're not actively marketing and trying to gain new users, we are just by word of mouth and a lot of the hype that's going on. But when we are getting new collectors, to the community, to the platform, there's a feeling that maybe they don't have enough information to prepare in terms of, being eligible for future pack drops or even getting in at that base level. And I know part of the concern there is, providing that pathway also provides some of those nefarious actors to, the roadmap as well. But how do we balance that to make sure that we're onboarding new collectors efficiently in a way that, will retain them over the long term?
Yeah, good question. I think pack accessibility is a big one, right? Kind of in the early days of Top Shot, there was never a doubt you'd be able to get a pack when you wanted to. And I think that's still our intent. And that's why edition sizes around common moments are still CC. We anticipate that those edition sizes will continue to grow. But that's kind of why we're not marketing actively right now, right? Like we don't feel we have and let me be very clear to the community. Every single day we're working on a lot of different things. And you'll see a dev diary release sometime this weekend, which will kind of cover what we've worked on this week. But there's only so much we can tackle. Our team is really small. I think there's a little bit of a misunderstanding about the capacity. We have under 150 collectors, or sorry, under 150 full-time employees at Dapper Labs. So everyone really is working 2 or 3 jobs, and that's our responsibility. And we're eager to continue to ramp up the team. We were at about 80 employees around December, so we have ramped up the team pretty significantly. I think we're probably at like 130 right now, if I had to guess. But this is all to say, like, these things take time, and I think if we looked back on where we were 2 months ago, a lot of the tenor of the community and temperature of the community was very different than where we're at now. So, making the first time collector experience great is 100% something that we're focused on and want to build, and have already started scoping out how we can. But I think, just tackling one issue at a time, and building towards something longer term that we're all really excited about, and know that when a new collector will come in, they'll be hyped up to get in on the action. And we have some really interesting ideas there that we just discussed even yesterday. So I'm excited about them. Just, again, one thing at a time. So we'll get there soon.
Perfect. So let's take a peek at some of the marketplace features questions, because, now that we've discussed packs, it makes sense to see what we can do with these. And earlier this week, we saw Tops roll out, a big drop, and they have over on their platform the ability to immediately sell or gift packs. Do we have any updates on when Top Shot will be able to deliver that feature? I know that it's been mentioned that it's on our to-do list.
Yeah, it's 100% on our to-do list. It kind of goes hand in hand with, like, we're picking the most urgent priorities at a time. And these are all priorities. But again, being in beta means that we have a lot of things we still need to work on before we feel like we have a finished product. I will say this, Roham just last night kind of resurfaced his feelings about trying to make that one of our more urgent priorities. So I agree. I think it will be great. And we'll get there soon.
And do we have any updates on whether or not Dapper's looking at increasing the maximum sell price? Because, we've seen a lot of recent large sales, on like heritage auctions, for example, and perhaps we could keep those native if the, limit was increased here.
Yeah, it's on the to-do list. It will happen sometime soon. I don't have a timeline, but we're aware. We've seen what's happened off market. We don't want to incentivize people to go off market. So it will happen at some point. I don't have a timeline. I don't think it's this week. It probably isn't next week, but we'll get it soon.
So since you said we don't want to incentivize people to go off market, can you speak a little bit about that? Off market deals, why they're risky, what Dapper's stance is on those?
Yeah. Hold on. Let me actually just pull up some notes that I took on this because I anticipated the question. Bear with me as I pull them up. And one thing you'll see is we're going to release kind of the state of Top Shot for April. Probably today it will be in a blog post. From there, we're also going to dovetail it into MBL, one of our great community members, crowdsourced some great FAQs. And we're going to turn this into a 4 FAQ series where we touch on withdrawals and we touch on the marketplace, we touch on any FAQs around moments, and then more general FAQs. Don't hold me to it being a 4-part series. It's subject to change. We might meld 2 of those FAQ categories into one, but I kind of am tentatively building out the responses to those FAQs. So around buying and selling, so it all kind of comes down to buying and selling Dapper balance, right? That's the primary concern. That is strictly prohibited. It's illegal. There's no other word for it but money laundering. We are not Venmo. You cannot use Top Shot like Venmo. You should not think of them as interchangeable. When you do that, you're breaking the law. Now, it is my job as a community lead to ensure that everyone in the community is safe, protected, and has a great experience on Top Shot. But that is strictly against our terms of service. So when the risk comes into why can't I buy or sell off market, we see instances, and the community, of course, raised their arms around the Fred Van Vliet kind of account takeover. Like those types of things are strictly prohibited. And when we get into off market, it becomes really hard for our team to do investigations to determine, was this a legitimate off market transaction, or was this buying and selling Dapper credits illegally? And that's kind of where the crux of this issue comes from. Buying, selling, trading off market will guaranteed slow down your withdrawal processing time. Maybe not your withdrawal access. And I do have, sympathies to those who have been waiting or were early to the project and, joined at a time when this was not imminently clear to me even, right? So we are working on that. We are 100% not letting people from January. We're not ignoring you. We just, it takes slightly more time, but we're working on it as much as we can. And you have my word that we will get to your specific case as soon as possible if you are in that boat. From the latest I've heard, we're talking about 300 collectors that are waiting 22 plus days for their withdrawal to be processed. So we're working through it. It is, certainly a vocal cohort. And, I do sympathize with many of them if they came when Top Shot was more wild west. But what I want to kind of emphasize here is, let me just kind of go down the list. The buying and selling of Dapper balance off market, strictly prohibited. If you bring it up in our Discord that you're trying to buy a single moment off market, you're trying to do anything off market, you're subject to being muted or banned. Just because it at the end of the day, it's a lose-lose for everyone involved. It's a lose-lose for us to police it. It's a lose-lose for the collector on the other end of it, if it means that they're going to have their withdrawal processing time take longer, all of the above, right? And again, this is not to say that this is a long-term issue, because we've corrected those kind of policies and we're moving forward. But there are some growing pains naturally with a company like ours that, had such immediate exponential growth that, we're still picking up the pieces a little bit. Gifting moments to a friend to help them complete a challenge. It's permitted. We're totally okay with it, but we're also not going to accommodate our challenge timelines to ensure that collectors can team up. Challenges have always been intended to be an individual event or experience. It's cool to see some collectors. It's cool to see some collectors befriending each other and teaming up together to complete challenges. I don't want to be the one to stop it, but I also have it on strong authority from our game designers that we're not going to extend challenges to accommodate those collectors. using a marketplace alert system without purchasing capabilities. So Raven is an example of this. There are certainly a lot of other great examples. And the only reason I'm singling out Raven is because in the past I've singled them out in a different context. So I want to kind of absolve them if I haven't explicitly done that to some collectors here. There are some services that 100% alert you and don't give you purchasing capabilities, and that is allowed. We're okay with that. Using a bot to purchase in the marketplace, that is strictly prohibited. Do not use a bot, do not snipe, prohibited. It goes against our terms of service, and it's subject to bans from Top Shot and indefinite account freezes.
Do we?
Yeah.
I would say, since that's a thing that has been asked about, the stance on LiveToken and the ability to click the buy button on their site and it brings you to our marketplace. Do we have a stance on that? Because that was the second half of someone's question that asked about Raven as well.
That's okay. If you're as long as you as the collector have to press buy on the Top Shot marketplace, that is okay by us. What we're not okay with is a bot doing things faster than a human could possibly do. And in this context, that means pressing the buy button, right? So if LiveToken didn't bring you to Dapper, but actually just brought you the moment to your account because a bot did the heavy lifting, that would not be allowed. But as long as the site is bringing you to Top Shot / Dapper to complete the process, that is okay.
Right. And then last question for the marketplace feature section, because I know that we're running short on time and we've got a lot to get through still. Do we have any clarification on why the marketplace opens up at different times for users after a pack drop? This does tend to cause a little bit of frustration because people say don't even get an alert when it's their turn to use the marketplace. How can we improve that process? Do we have any plans to improve that process?
100% we plan to. We know that it's a frustrating experience for some. So the way I kind of look at it is it's a lesser of two evils. So those two evils, to be super specific. On one front, there is the perception of unfairness, right? And that's kind of the lesser of two evils that we're sticking with. Because it is random and some collectors are able to get to the marketplace before others, that leads to this perception of it's not fair. It's the same with a pack drop, right? It's totally randomized, and some collectors are going to get lucky and get to the front of the queue. Others are going to be unlucky. But that's the lesser of two evils, because the alternative is we open the marketplace up to everyone at the same time, and everyone goes to the same exact moments. 99.9% of those collectors have their purchases fail and they get stalled out on their kind of cooldown freeze because only one person can get a moment that is well priced that everyone else is going for. But more importantly than that, like pardon my French, the shit show around everyone pursuing the same moment and 99.9% of people coming away frustrated because their cooldown doesn't reset, is the other reality that when everyone comes to the site, and we've seen this happen time and time again, when everyone blitzes us at once, that hurts our site's performance and could actually crash the site. So rather than go risk that, because to be clear, when that happens, that means our engineers have to go all hands on deck to repair the site. And when they're not doing that, they're actually working on all of these other features that the community is constantly recommending and suggesting. So we'd rather our engineers work on proactive, futuristic features and builds than reactive, let's try to keep the site alive because everyone crashed at once. So again, it's the pick your two battles, or to pick your two poisons. We are going to consider doing something around kind of releasing challenges when the site is alive, but it, like, as in not during a drop. But to answer the feedback I'm seeing, like, again, that's the same exact kind of issue of everyone crashing for the same exact moments at the exact same time, which could, jeopardize the site's stability.
Perfect. And since you mentioned the challenges and, when we're releasing those, that's a good transition to that category because we must cover some of those questions. Biggest question being the Cool Cats Master Challenge. So, what is still left for that? And do we have a timeline on when this is all going to complete?
No timeline. I would anticipate completing it, or yeah, I don't even want. I don't have a great answer here. I know it's something that we have high priority to complete, and I know that we're getting closer, but we still have other kind of things we need to do with it. So yeah, I'll kind of plead the fifth there, if you will.
Okay, so we don't have any details about what else needs to be done with it before we can get to the end zone.
No, there will be more kind of cool. There will be at least one more Cool Cats challenge that involves base set moments or potentially other common moments that are non-base set. Um, and then long term, we'll kind of see other ways that we can distribute out or incentivize collectors to pursue other Cool Cats moments.
Okay, so we don't yet have details on how to get those last Cool Cats moments, but we are working on the details and we'll release those when available.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, so that's definitely been a frequently asked question. Do we have any plans or ideas to incentivize completing challenges? I know that previously it was, frequently done because of the ROI, but that's maybe not, as you mentioned, been a thing because their supply has been higher. So what are we looking at there?
So I think I have a note on this as well. I think, again, I touched on this a little bit earlier. There's always going to be equilibrium where challenge rewards are over pursued and then become under pursued, and that'll all balance out as far as ROI long term. But around challenges in general, I think we'll look into different ways to improve the challenge reward feature, be it comes in a pack, be it comes, the challenge reward indicator was a nice little touch, I think, on making it, feel a little extra special. But I'd be reticent to share any other details. I think the challenge experience is largely successful. And it's just kind of up to a collector to do their evaluation of whether now makes sense for me to pursue this specific challenge, or do I think everyone's going to pursue it and therefore it's not worth it.
And that actually was one of the last question for the challenge section was, have we considered providing those challenge rewards in packs, kind of like we did for the gift, instead of just dropping them in accounts? So I'm excited that you've mentioned that as well. Couple questions about account features that people have been asking about. We've had changes to baller status getting rolled out, and people are wondering if there's going to be any value associated with baller status, things like priority access to queues or marketplace, better odds of getting a pack. What are we looking at with that?
Yeah, I think we're probably going to release something that is more dynamic than baller status, right? So I think internally we're terming it collector score. And I think we're going to release something around collector score where as you buy moments or buy packs or what I don't have the specifics, but your score goes up, and as you sell, your score goes down. And that feels like a better long-term approach for us to determine eligibility for drops. It seems like it's a better determinant long-term for you to know exactly where you stand in the community as far as how much of a how much of a genuine collector you are, right? I get that question a ton. We do think that there's value in kind of having a very clear metric around it. So I don't have a timeline. I know it's something that we're actively thinking about and working through. And yeah, it will be retroactive, of course. We will take into account what your account looks like, and not too different from Evaluate Market or Intangible Market or any of these other great websites and resources. In theory, you should be able to plug in your username and be able to see exactly what your collector's score will look like. And again, that's just an internal name. Maybe we change the name, but that's kind of where our heads are at around how we solve this kind of what's considered an arbitrary pack eligibility restriction long term and incentivize people to build up their collections in dynamic ways.
And so in addition to building up collections, people are wondering about managing their collections. Currently, we have the little tiny red dot on the website that will notify, if you've sold a moment. Do we have any plans to, provide emails or other ways for people to track their sales?
Yeah, I think all of that stuff is doable. I think it's admittedly not at the top of our priority list, but it's something that long term we'll look into for sure. I'm seeing Webhead ask about withdrawal timeline about Canadian banks. We're still looking at something in like the next 2 weeks, I would say there. It's in QA right now as a team.
So we've got QA for Canadian banks. We've got, potential other ways for notifying about moment sales. What about the Chrome push notifications? Do we have an update on those? People miss those.
Yeah, that kind of, when you asked about email about sale, like my head went to pushes. I think we'll have push notifications return for sure. There was an infrastructure issue in which some collectors were not getting push notifications, and that felt even if you had opted in. So we want to make sure we fix that issue and not create disparities where some collectors who did opt in were not getting alerted, because who knows if some people rely on that as their only path.
That makes sense. And do we have any updates on the possibility of collectors using non-custodial wallets, which might be a more when we get out of beta thing, but what have we got there?
Exactly what you said. When we're out of beta, that will definitely be, it's something we're very keen on, something we know is something collectors are keen on. But at this point in beta, moments must be held in your Dapper wallet and may not be withdrawn from the platform entirely. But the plan long term is to add support that'll allow trusted collectors to safely and securely transfer their moments to fully non-custodial flow wallets outside of the platform.
And now that gifting has been out for several weeks, how's that going? Is it as we expected? Are there going to be potential changes there or even trading enabled soon?
Soon, no, but trading is on the roadmap long term. And overall, I think the gifting restrictions have done their job. I think it's a lot harder for a bad actor to abuse the platform now. So, I'm never say never, we're open to tweaks, but that's kind of where we're at right now.
Thank you. For people who are waiting on withdrawal access, a lot of times, they're submitting their withdrawal access, and if it's a trickier, situation where they need review, there's a very long wait period. Do we have any plans for at least increasing the interim communication to give people updates that they're not being forgotten or compliance timelines?
Yeah, I know that's a priority from the Dapper side, and I don't have an update there, but I know that that is something that we're mindful of and want to help with. We do send an email, so check your email, check your spam. I've had numerous occasions where I've been kind of blown up in my DMs around uh, it's now taking X number of days for me to do something. And then when I check with the Dapper team, they say, yeah, they never replied to the email. And then I reply saying, did you not reply to the email? And they say, oh, let me check. So in a lot of cases, it's check your spam, check your email. If you're waiting a really long time, chances are that you actually might be the bottleneck. Not always, for sure. There are exceptions, but we do always contact when something is taking extremely long, longer than it should.
All right. And other issues that people have seen with accounts recently, especially it's been really huge, is a lot of blocked purchases, whether it's credit card or Dapper balance. Do you know if this is kind of a widespread Dapper issue or just a lot of individual issues that are happening at once? And what are we looking at, you know, for a bulk resolution there?
Um, so I'm getting sorry, Candy. I'm getting pings from others, but can you repeat that question?
Sure. So people have been having a lot of issues recently. We've been seeing reports of the inability to make purchases with either credit card or Dapper balance. And so they're wondering if this is, kind of a widespread Dapper issue or if it's just a lot of individual issues that are happening and, what our plans are for kind of improving that process.
Yeah, I think there have been false positives detected, but I also think that we are working on improvements there. That's probably slightly out of my wheelhouse, as I'm working on kind of the Top Shot community side and not as much the Dapper support side. But I do try to funnel all feedback from this team to, yeah, it might be a credit card specific issue, be it Citi or be it MasterCard, whichever company it might be.
All right, so there are multiple reasons this may be happening, but definitely something the team is aware of. And last series of questions, then we'll be done for today. I know we've been a little bit over, Jacob, but there's a lot since we missed Tuesday. For the third-party tools and bots, we already talked about Raven and LiveToken, so we can kind of skip that. People have asked in the past if there are any incentives for reporting botting. We used to have a bounty. I know that we no longer have one, but we do still have a form. Is there anything that, from the Dapper team we'd like to share about community reporting?
No, just keep using that form. Um, so I would say long term, or not even long term, in the intermediate term, we're going to have a policy that's internal. We're not going to share it necessarily with the community, but you will start seeing a lot more kind of action taken against bad actors and disciplining, you know, freezing accounts, the like. So I think we're getting closer and closer there.
So that's kind of the follow-up question of this is what is happening when those bad actors are identified? Because the community is, very regularly identifying questionable accounts, whether they're completing transactions far faster than a human could, or there's a lot of very strangely priced sales happening. The gifting patterns. I think that, Dapper's doing a lot of things on the back end that are not visible to the community. How can we reconcile that a little bit?
Yeah. Well, I think we're working on it to answer the question, and it'll be How do I put it? It'll almost be like a switch is flipped. So it's not in our best interest as such a lean team to go through kind of the process of how do I put it? I think for right now, what we are comfortable with doing as a team is freezing an account and blocking them from being able to access their collection on Top Shot. That's kind of that's what bad actors, that's the discipline they can anticipate. Long term, subject to potential changes there. But if you violate our terms of service and you create an unfair or unsafe playing field for other collectors, genuine collectors on Top Shot, it's very similar to like I saw someone above saying like, I thought we owned it. And the reality is, having ownership of something on the blockchain doesn't give you a free pass to break the law or do things that break terms of service and create a bad experience for everyone else. So we're weighing those two things. And we understand the virtues of decentralization. We also understand the importance of making sure our collectors and our community are protected. So we're gonna do stuff like that.
On the virtues of ownership, we've had people asking in the chat if they have the rights to download video from a moment that they own and then put it on like an infinite object.
Yeah, Infinite Objects is an awesome brand, and we encourage it. Yeah, I don't have any problem with people adding their moments to Infinite Objects at all. Community, I really appreciate the questions. We'll be back on Tuesday. I've got to run. So I apologize for cutting off a little early, or I guess 10 minutes later than usual, but really do appreciate the questions. Really awesome to hear all of these great questions. And we'll be back soon. In the meantime, stay tuned. There will be updates coming from the community, and you might even hear some updates in the very near future about things that are going to be exciting, and that might even come as soon as today. So really appreciate everyone, and we'll talk soon. Stay glued to the Discord, stay glued to our Twitter, stay glued to our updates Twitter in particular. And maybe you'll hear some updates from us, if not today, then early next week.
Thank you very
have
much
a great
for your
weekend,
time,
everyone.
Jacob. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you. We'll get the video up on YouTube for those who need to catch up later.
All right, thanks. Take care. Bye, everyone.